Well, despite its immense potential, Africa aviation markets continue to make major losses. Carriers like Kenya Airways and South African Airways have been losing millions of dollars annually. Some argue that a more liberal aviation market could be the answer, but at what cost? CGTN's Ramah Nyang sought some answers at the Africa CEO Forum in Kigali.
Africa is the most expensive aviation market on the planet. With the exception of Ethiopian Airlines, all other large carriers in sub-Saharan Africa are losing hundreds of millions of dollars every year. In January, data from IATA indicated that Africa as a whole accounted for barely 2% of total global passenger traffic, with the lowest passenger load factor of any region in the world at barely 70%. Now, the continent's aviation market is deeply fragmented, with multiple charges and taxes being imposed on carriers and passengers alike. Demand, of course, is also being artificially suppressed by governments that tightly control who can fly into and out of their territory. One proposed solution to that is more collaboration and not less.
We can also look at other areas of collaboration. We can, between us and Kenya, we can agree, instead of Rwanda flying 3 times a day and KQ flying 3 times a day, why don't we do it, you do 2, I do 2, and we have a joint venture on that particular route to be able to serve it better, and then we can free up some of our aircraft to actually use it on underserved routes as well. So there's ways to bridge that gap as well. Can we collaborate more on MROs? Can we collaborate more in terms of the Aviation Academy? Can we work together in order to make sure we cut costs, but also get a piece of the pie of the common market of East Africa?
But of course, different carriers have different problems. Kenya Airways, for instance, has about 3,600 employees on its payroll compared to Ethiopian's 11,300. But even with a third of the planes and a third of the employees, its direct staff costs are about 72% of what Ethiopians pay. Those costs are not likely to fall anytime soon.
There is no one reason why we have problems. And it's so assuming that tomorrow we have a miracle talk with our pilots and crew and they cut their salary in half. Of course, first of all, I don't think it's good motivation to ask them to do so, but I think I agree with you that they could be more productive. But on the other hand, I think we can obtain something if we give them a perspective. Because if I come to you and say, oh, by the way, sorry, but competition is coming, so I need to cut your salary and don't promise you a bright future, why would you agree? I wouldn't agree for myself.
And it's not just labour concerns that KQ has to deal with. Its proposal to take over operations at JKIA may have gotten a frosty reception by some, but the rest of East Africa is not sitting still at all. Years of losses notwithstanding, Rwanda still gets significant investments right across the board. In addition to government guarantees to expand its fleet, which now stands at about 12 planes, Rwanda has gotten $119 million as an operational subsidy in the 2018-2019 fiscal year. The state is also borrowing over $160 million in 2019 and 2020 to fund the construction of an entirely new airport some 40 kilometers from Kigali. Now, let's put aside all the arguments about what fair competition is or isn't just for a moment, with Rwanda, Uganda, Tanzania all investing in reviving or expanding their national carriers. On paper, at least, consumers right now are really spoiled for choice. But at what point will these costs of these carriers move off taxpayers' balance sheets, or should they just stay there? Ramah Nyang, CGTN, Kigali.